Hello, today's date is January 31st, 2017, and it is a Tuesday morning, about 1:46 a.m., and I want to call this video The Future of Undesirables in America, or just the future of undesirables. And I had this on my mind for a long time. I was going to do a facial video about this, but I didn't want to. Earlier today, when I was thinking about this idea, or at least a few hours ago, initially I wanted to do a facial video where I'd stand in front of the mirror or whatever and just vent out my frustrations. I'd probably be better off doing it this way with just a black background or whatever, maybe some pictures. So I want to kind of explain what's driving people to all these movements like MGTOW, and what's driving men to MRA, and what's making people angry today. Basically, is we live in a land of undesirables, and I want to be more specific about this. It's very important to understand that having been a caregiver and having babysat this person, taking care of this relative, I have had the opportunity to watch a lot of TV. And with this person, and of course I watch TV, I watch the news and all this other crap. And I've never watched so much TV in my life, and most of the time in the past I thought TV was a waste of time. But I've gotten to the impression that what our society is driven by, I've talked about how capitalism is, in some ways, it's got a lot of flaws to it, and namely that if something isn't making a profit, it's considered inferior. Well, why I'm calling this video The Land of the Undesirables is because I think that this is exactly, we're at this point where most people are at right now. Okay? Now, I think this affects men by far, probably much, much, much more than it affects women. And I want to be very specific about this. Anybody, first of all, I want to start off by saying anybody can become an undesirable. Okay, being an undesirable isn't something that you are born with, and then it's the only thing. It's not your fate in life. Now, if you were born with no legs and a stump for an arm, like flipper hands, like that, like what they call formaldehyde babies or whatever, you could probably be. That's called instant undesirable, where your whole life you're always going to be considered something to be pitied. So that is something where I think from a psychological point of view, you probably could adjust to very well at an early age, that you're never going to be part of the mainstream. But my issue right now, we know that I've talked about the handicapped issue before, about how there's 43 million people in this country that in some way, shape, or form is on some sort of disability for a legitimate reason. Okay, well, I want to say that anybody can become an undesirable in this society today. It can happen for many reasons. You could lose your job. You could once you lose your job and you're married, you become an undesirable, because it doesn't even take very long. In fact, if a man is making a good income and he loses his job, he becomes a burden within 6 months. He's considered, everything he's done in the past is just considered useless. Okay. Another thing that might make you an undesirable is if you are a man that loses his job and you decide to retrain into a different field. And let's say your profession was, you were an air traffic controller or something, and you decide to retrain and become a nurse, only to find out that nobody wants a man probing up their butt other than a doctor, or nobody wants a nurse. I thought I was crazy thinking this, but the entire medical field is about 80% women. And this is no joke. It is literally chock full of women. I don't even know why these schools, these like Remington College, are always have these courses for medical assistant, dental assistant, dental hygienist. These jobs all go to women. So if you're a man that goes to school for this, you're an undesirable right away, right off the bat. nobody's going to hire you. I mean, it's going to be a snowball's chance in hell, unless, of course, you go to some third world country. You see, we're at this crossroads right now with this is what I predict this could happen. This would take an army of angry men to do this, and angry handicapped and angry TFLers to do this. But at some point, the oppressed and downtrodden, or the undesirables, are going to have to come out of the closet. You see, most MGTOW guys today are just in the closet. They're not going out and telling people what they really feel. You know, something funny and interesting happened the other day. I actually was at the nursing home visiting this person I'm taking care of, and I ran into a guy who's been in a wheelchair for over or almost 30 years, or maybe 30 years. And I immediately told him my feelings of what society thinks of handicapped. I told him my feelings about how I'm very pissed off at how, you know, nobody wants to be around you when you're either taking care of somebody that's sick or in a wheelchair, or if a person's in a wheelchair. And I think I unloaded a lot of shit to this guy. But I think he knew where I was coming from. You see, he knew that I knew what he probably already knows. And I unloaded with him, and I don't care. And I told him, I says, I make no apologies. And I even told him while I says, I know I'm unloading a lot of shit on you, but I says, you know what? I'm going to tell you something. I make no apologies for what I said. And he did not flinch once. He pretty much, I think he pretty much understood where I came from. Now, he had a job, this guy, and I don't know whether he's working full-time. He's able to use the public transportation system, and he's able to get around. You know, like I say this before, and I've said this before, you don't see handicapped people. I believe that there's going to be a time where TFLers, which is, let's face it, most MGTOWs are TFLers. I don't care what you say. Most of them are. You're going to see these undesirable people start to make themselves visible. And there's going to have to come a time where we don't listen to guys like Dr. Phil start shaming us and telling us we're crazy, we're weird, we've got the problem, because they're in the mainstream media. And even the alternative media hasn't really done much. You know, the alternative media even doesn't like undesirables. You see, I don't think it's enough for undesirable people, whether it be handicapped or TFLers or jobless men. And I strongly believe, again, that most undesirables are men today, ugly men, unattractive men, average-looking men. But I don't think it's productive if people just sit around and do nothing. I think that there's going to have to be some coordinated organization. And it's going to have to be done in a way where you have everything to gain and nothing to lose. You know, what's wrong with a 10,000 men living TFL, or 10,000 men who are ugly coming out in public and saying we're tired of discrimination? Well, you know, we all know, for example, that in the job market, we all know that people judge by looks. We all know it. We all know it. We all know what goes on. We all know that you won't get that job probably because you're not good looking enough. You're not the tall guy with the chiseled jaw and the square jaw. I was watching this Hallmark movie today. I had recorded on my DVR, and I couldn't believe it. This guy, everything that we've talked about, he had the chiseled jaw. His chin was flat. He was 6'2", very lanky, low body fat. This is exactly what I'm talking about. This is being paraded as perfection. So many men out there, millions and millions and millions of men out there, are going to be categorized as undesirable, whether they like it or not. And if you're a somewhat decent-looking guy, I mean, you saw what Chris Cantu, what's happened to him. I mean, this is a good-looking guy now he's considered obsolete and undesirable. See, this is what I believe about being undesirable. It doesn't have to be something that you're born with. You can be rendered obsolete and undesirable within a couple years. You could get in a car accident, have a scar across your face, get a broken spinal cord, walk with a limp the rest of your life, have a cane, and you're an undesirable. You're totally a burden and an undesirable. And people got to understand that undesirable people can't be sitting in their apartments and doing nothing about it. There's going to have to be some sort of coordinated organization to get things done. And I'm not giving you guys a solution as of yet. But, you know, it is possible for this to happen. For example, I think in the late 1980s, there was a situation that had happened with the ADA, or the American Disabilities Act, and there were a bunch of handicapped people that descended on Washington in the thousands, in the tens of thousands. And it's happened before. I mean, we know the homosexuals do it. See, I don't think that enough gay people go out and demand rights. I wish millions of gay people would hit the streets. I wish millions of ugly guys would demand that they get hired because it wasn't their fault that they were born ugly. I wish we would get rid of this phoniness and start being as transparent as we can be. And this starts with you guys listening to this, because a lot of you guys live a phony life too. You know, you're pissed off because of your immediate situation, but as soon as it goes away, boom, you're going to forget all about it. We've seen what's happened in MGTOW. We know that when a MGTOW guy gets a girlfriend, he's out the door. Boom, he's done. I mean, we know when a guy who complains about the job market gets a job, he no longer gives a shit about anybody. This has happened to TFLers as well, and incels and all this other jazz. But we're all going down the path of being undesirable. And we're going to have to at some point fight it. We have to call out the people and call out the institutions that are making us feel inadequate and undesirable. Now, I know this is very tricky to do this because, and there's one reason why this is tricky, because the people that run the media and the people that run the show are only reacting on market demands. Because, see, a lot of people say, you know, I used to listen to Bill Greathouse talk about the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds. The dating scene sucks today is because the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds. Let me tell you something. The Rockefellers and the Rothschilds have nothing to goddamn do with the dating scene today. They have nothing to do with it. The dating scene is what it is today because people have allowed themselves to turn against each other and become selfish. And see, selfish notions and selfish ambitions are what allow the media to attack these weaknesses we have. You're seeing narcissistic people who are obese and unattractive even behaving narcissistically today. It's an epidemic proportion. But I don't blame one institution for it, but we have to. The trickiness of this thing is that we have got to stop. We have to start calling these people out on their bullshit, like the Dr. Phils and the Oprah Winfreys. We have to have large amounts of people, these silent majorities, to start calling these people out on their fucking bullshit. Because all they do is keep promoting the same lies. They keep peddling the beautiful people. They keep peddling the everybody's having a good time as long as they look good on TV. Boy, that's perfect for daytime television. We all know that the world really doesn't work this way. It doesn't work this way at all. I mean, TFL and all these things we talk about with MGTOW are just a symptom of a much bigger problem we have today. But I think it falls into the category of what's desirable and what's not. And if you lose your job, you're an undesirable. If you lose your looks, you're an undesirable. If you lose your health, you're an undesirable. And there's so many men today, and I stress this strongly, men, because I believe women are much more insulated from this being an undesirable. Even women in wheelchairs that are handicapped, they are much more insulated from this problem. Men are by far more considered more undesirable. I mean, I was shocked when I was reading today that, you know, these guys were complaining that they went to these medical colleges to get these medical assistant degrees, and they're complaining that no guy, mind you, doesn't want to hire them because they're a man. I mean, that in and of itself is major discrimination when you have 80% of the medical field 90% of the medical field going into women's hands. The only people making, obviously, are doctors because they have the mental aptitude for a job like that. I mean, here's another thing I wanted to point out, too. And this gets into the battle of the sexes issue. I am totally convinced that the reason why there are no female corporate CEOs taking over positions is because they simply fucking can't do it. And here's the problematic thing about this. If a woman can do a job 80% as well as a man can do it, she's automatically hired in favor of a man. In every God-blessed profession there is, women will get that job. Almost all your medical jobs that deal with the accounting, like medical coding, all go to women. Almost all your jobs, your nursing jobs, all go to women. All your STNA, your state certified nursing assistant, whatever jobs, go to women. Almost all jobs go to women. If a woman can do 80% of the job as well as a man, they all go to women. And I say all in the figuratively. There are a small percentage, but almost all of them will go to women. So that makes a man obsolete. It really does. Now, a man might be able to get a job as an auto mechanic or an air conditioning mechanic, start a business, and make very good money. And he might land a wife if he's lucky. But he's still going to be seen as undesirable if he's not good looking. If he's an HVAC tech that's ugly, he's going to be a guy that can maybe get a job. He's maybe not undesirable in the ability to fix an air conditioner, but he's still going to be considered ugly. And you have all these men out there that in some way are going to be obsolete. And this is what they don't understand. You know, there's a lot of MGTOW guys that are hitting the MGTOW circuit now that weren't even here a year or two ago. Like this guy called, there's this one blonde-haired guy, he calls himself MGTOW Freedom or whatever. This is a guy that a couple years ago wasn't even involved in this MGTOW. Now all of a sudden the good-looking, tall, handsome, Nordic-looking guy is all of a sudden becoming a MGTOW. Why? I'll tell you why he's becoming MGTOW for Freedom, is becoming a MGTOW. Because he realizes now that he is an undesirable, like the rest of these chumps, like Chris Cantu, who used to bed and bang all kinds of women. He knows he's undesirable now. See, what I'm trying to tell you about being an undesirable is that it can happen to anybody at any time. You don't have to lose a limb. You don't have to have a 3-4 gashes or scars across your face. It doesn't take much to turn you into an undesirable. And that's why I think a MGTOW is becoming so big today. Not because they have some sort of solution. It's that these men joining MGTOW know that any man can become an undesirable at any length. Every time I go to the nursing home, I still feel like an undesirable, because even though the people there might know that I have rendered my duties as a caregiver for as long as I have, I always have this feeling in the back of my head that if I needed a job there, they'd never hire me, because they won't hire a man to do that type of job. Any type of, unless maybe it was working maintenance or something. And see, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Any one of you guys out there that's good looking can become an undesirable. We have a huge population of men out there, by no fault of their own, that will never find a woman to save their life. You know, back in April of 2008, I had made the statement that 1 in 10 men would not find a woman. Oh my God, was I wrong. It's more like 3 in 10 men, maybe 4. I mean, this pussy renaissance that I talked about in April of 2008, we're going on 9 years, has taken on an epidemic proportion. And don't blame it on Tinder and Facebook and all that other. Those are incidental things. I do blame it on demographics. I think that's a part. We are in a crisis, a major crisis today. All of these MGTOW guys are facing being undesirables at some level. The ones that show their face on camera, like myself, or let's say the ones that are decent looking that show their face, like the Chris Cantus and the MGTOW for Freedom types that look like they're pretty decent looking, they're proving that even being good looking, you can be considered an undesirable. And that's what's happening today. And if this does not change, there is going to be major repercussions. It's not going to be business as usual. Right now, like I've said, you've got all these people out of work. You have all these men that are going to live in perpetual TFL or involuntary celibacy. You have no legalized prostitution. You have jobs in the medical field all going to women. Almost every clerical job goes to a woman. Yeah, we got a lot of undesirables out there. And this is going to boil over. This is going to get big. It's not going to end. It's not going to go away. Going to college and putting yourself into more and more debt isn't going to, God bless it, change a fucking thing. It isn't going to change a goddamn thing. Going to college, get a better education, go to nursing school. Great. If you're a woman, yeah, go to nursing school. If you're a fucking man, forget it. The odds are stacked against you guys. If good-looking guys like Chris Cantu can bitch about how fucked up his life is and the dating scene is, what does this tell you about the average-looking and ugly guys out there? You got women all strung out on Prozac, women strung out on SSRIs and Wellbutrin and all these different drugs out there. They've turned them into total friggin' narcissistic zombies. It's disgusting. But the end result of all of this is these undesirable men that are in the tens of millions. It's no longer just 10,000 or 100,000. It's probably going to hit the tens of millions. There are millions of men. I know this is an oversimplification, but all men are going to be faced with being undesirable. I should call this video the future land of the undesirables. And this is what all men are facing today. I go out in public and I'm not belly aching and complaining. I am totally invisible. I have had no women flirt with me in 5 fucking years. And I don't put on an attitude. They don't read my vibrations. I haven't had a woman flirt with me in 5 years. And I have never in my entire life ever experienced this years ago. And it's also not just the women issue. It's guys are bigger dicks today than they've ever been. I mean, we got a lot of really pissed off people out there. And they're pissed off at the wrong people. That's another thing. The guys that are pissed off tend to be pissed off at the wrong guys. We're not going to come together that easily. I realize that. But something's going to brew over. There is no way I could be the only guy out there shopping by myself, picking up groceries, and having no interaction other than have a nice day. I mean, this is fucking insane. That, like, our lives are... I could interact with 20, 30, 40, 50 people a day, and not one would say, hey, why don't you hang out with us sometime? This is fucked up. I mean, I want you to think about this, how many people you wind up interacting in the course of a day and nobody really gives a shit about you. You know, I really wanted to tell that handicapped guy the other day, hey, if you ever want to hang out or talk, but for some reason I was apprehensive because I think that he might have not wanted to talk to me because I was very fucking direct with this guy. See, he was not undesirable to me. He's the kind of guy that I probably would chill out and talk to, at least on the phone, if he was willing to do that. But I may have pissed him off, but I don't think I did. I don't think I pissed him off at all. But the point is, I'm tired of living in a world of political correctness where I'm stepping on eggshells. You know, that Aaron Clary interview with that guy named Francis opened up something. You know, I'm approaching 50 years old in 4 years, and I don't have time to be walking on eggshells anymore. I'm already pissed off. I don't have time to be walking on eggshells. And I am not going to walk on eggshells anymore. I refuse to walk on eggshells. This is the reason why I did a facial video yesterday. I'm no longer walking on eggshells. I got everything to gain and nothing to lose at this point in my life. I'm not going to be hired by some corporate entity. I'm never going to be better looking than I already am now. I'm only getting older. So I have got nothing to lose. I've been a caregiver for several years. I finally got paid after a couple years, but the point is, I got everything to gain and nothing to lose by being vocal. That's why I unloaded to that guy. And I said it loud and clear. I even said things that might have even offended some of the women working at this place. Because I said very clearly that nobody hires men in these jobs. And see, this is the thing. I don't give two rat shits anymore what people think. I'm tired of walking on eggshells. And this undesirable thing, see, most men are undesirables. And if they're not undesirables now, it's not going to be long before they are. Every smartass that will leave a trolling ass comment on here is going to find himself as an undesirable. And it is a fact. TFL or not a TFL, MGTOW or not a MGTOW, incel or not an incel, employed or not employed, you're going to be in some very precarious position where you are an undesirable. I'm going to just stop it there. Leave your comments and suggestions, and let me know what you think of this audio rant, because right now I am really pissed. And I'm tired. I've been holding this in for a long time about, how men today are put in a position of expendability and undesirability. I think the word is undesirable, not expendable, undesirable. And I really believe this is going to get into the tens of millions. It's not going to just be a million here, a million there. We see the world. This affects men more than anybody else. This does not affect women on the same level as it affects women. Women are shielded from this bullshit by a long shot. Men are the ones that are not. A lot of this is perpetrated by men themselves. The male doctor that refuses to hire a male physician assistant is part of the problem. So it's not just women doing this. In fact, most male discrimination is probably coming from men too, with the exception of the medical field. I think a lot of the medical field is run by women now, and that's just the way it is. So you leave your comments and suggestions. You guys have a great day.